Hi, welcome to Maggie Chats Books. Today I'm going to talk about my TBR for September, which is also known as Sci-Fi Fantasy September. I know it's been a long time since I filmed. I have a lot of excuses. I tried to start it back up in August and just didn't get a chance. I'd like to sew. If you've seen other videos, you've heard me talk about that, and so I decided to start an Etsy shop. It just took a while to get it all set up and everything, but now I'm back to talk about books. In September, it's normal for me anyway, to read science fiction, and usually there's a couple of challenges going on. This year I decided not to do a challenge because I wanted to read some of my books on my shelf and get rid of my TBR a little bit. So I got a lot of books to read, so this will just dent it a little bit. So this month I plan on reading one that's not really science fiction. There is a bit of fantasy to this. It's more historical fiction, and that's The Essex Serpent by Sarah Perry. I started this book so many times. I want to actually read it. I've heard a lot of good things about it. It has to deal with a woman who has recently lost her husband. Apparently he wasn't a very nice person. And she and her son go to Essex County after the funeral to kind of get away from it all. And in Essex County there is a legend or a story or something about an Essex serpent that comes, and I guess it hurts people or something like that. So I'm going to read this one and consider it a fantasy book for Science Fiction Fantasy September. The next book is one that's on my Kindle. It's called Unlocked, and it is the prequel to the Lock-In series. The Lock-In series is about in the United States, probably in the near future, where a pandemic has happened about 20 years previously. The pandemic first brought on flu-like symptoms. A lot of people died. Those that survived, some of them went into another bout of this disease, and it was more like meningitis. And if they didn't die, they recovered or they became paralyzed. Their mind is totally intact, but their whole body is paralyzed, and they're called Hayden patients because that's what they named the disease after. And so these patients are pretty much just laying in a bed with life support on them. But technology is advanced so that they could build robots which you can control with your mind, and so you can go out into the world and everything. So that's what Lock-In is about. So what Unlocked is about is how the disease started, gives the background to it. It's a novella, so it's not very long, but I really wanted to read that before I read the other book I want to read, and that is Head On, which is the second book in the Lock-In series, if you don't count the prequel. And this, I won't say much about this book because I don't want to spoil what Lock-In is about. The whole story of Lock-In, but this continues on, I believe, with the same characters and goes more into after everything has happened and how these people are living with their bodies that are also robots. Next book I want to read is another science fiction book, and that's The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. I bought this when I was on vacation, and I don't know much about it because they just give comments from other authors and newspapers and things like that. So I do know that it has to do with life on Mars, as Ray Bradbury thought it would be back in, I think, the 1940s apparently. So this is quite an old book, but I really wanted to see how he envisioned Mars was going to be and what we'd be doing and when we'd be doing it. The next book is another sequel, and that is Robogenesis by Daniel H. Wilson. He wrote Robo Apocalypse. It was a really, really good story, pretty much based on we are a society that has become so dependent on robots. They are in our everyday life. Some look almost human, other ones are just robots. They provide security, they provide domestic help, they provide like auto workers, all this kind of thing. So they're pretty much taking over a lot of the labor jobs and helping people. And one day they decide to turn on humans because they feel like their job is to protect the planet, and humans are the worst culprits of hurting the planet. So they rise up to eliminate humans. So that's what Robopocalypse covers, and this is Robogenesis, and this is a continuation, I believe, right after the other book ended. So I really wanted to read this one. If you haven't read anything by Daniel Wilson, he also wrote The Clockwork Dynasty, which has to do with robot kind of doll things that were invented during the czars of Russia time. They were given to them and how they become almost alive. That book is super, super good. So I really enjoy his writing and looking forward to reading the second book in that series. The next book is one that I got a while ago, and I heard a couple of people talk about it, and I think it was Mel from Mel's Bookland Adventures that said it reminded her a lot of Michael Crichton, who's another author I really like. So this is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. This, I believe, deals with time travel and parallel universes. So a man, the synopsis pretty much says that a man leaves his house one day and doesn't return for quite a while. So I haven't read a lot about time travel or parallel universes, but I heard this was pretty good. Kind of a light read, but also entertaining, so perfect for science fiction month or whatever it is. And the last science fiction book that I plan on reading is another one that's been on my shelf for a while, and it's Leviathan Wakes by James A. Corey. This is the first in a series of 3, I believe, and it has to do with, in the future, we have colonized the moon, Mars, an asteroid belt. We travel to Saturn and things like that. So it has to deal with a person that I think gets ice from Saturn's rings or something like that. And also there's a mystery kind of detective thing in here where a girl is missing and or has gone away, and her parents are trying to find her through a detective type person. So it's quite chunky, so we'll see how it is. But it's gotten a lot of good reviews, so I haven't really read it too much in depth because I didn't want any spoilers. And the last book that is not, it's not science fiction, it is our book of the month for the Read Around the World book club. I haven't been keeping up with that, but I wanted to get back with it this month because I really enjoy that and reading the dialogue that people, after they read it, put out on Goodreads. So it's Behold the Dreamers by, and I'm not going to say, I'm just going to put the name up here because I will butcher it. It's a book about immigrants from Cameroon, I believe, and they are a couple with a son. They go to live in Harlem and become domestics or drivers for a very rich couple. The man and wife both get jobs with this couple, and things aren't as you think they should be, is I think what it says in here. So I think most of us voted on this book because we'd had it on our shelf for quite a while. I know I have, so I was excited to see this one was up for nomination, and of course I voted on it, and we'll finally get to read it or make myself read it. It sounds really good. It's got a lot of good reviews. I think this was an Oprah selection of the month as well, so I have high hopes for this one. So that's the 8 books that I really want to read this month, and I'm sure I'll add more to them and maybe switch them out, but these are the ones I really want to focus on. So if you're reading any science fiction in September, please let me know what they are, and if you're reading these, please let me know what you thought of them. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you later. Goodbye.